Well, if I've been thinking like that for 50 years, do you have exercises, drills, realizations, things that people can do to begin to change their self-limiting beliefs or thoughts? Uh, I don't know, maybe it takes counseling in a group where people point, how can somebody really do this
So some of
and
it,
pull it off?
is one of the things we didn't even get to is that there are reasons we have come to this distorted definition of competence. There are sources for this. And in Valerie's book, she talks about the 7 sources of imposter syndrome. And, one of them is, if you were raised by humans, you might experience imposter syndrome. If you, um, so like some people may have grown up. I'm just going to give a couple of examples. Some people may have grown up with the messaging that anything less than perfect, you bring home your grades and there's 1 B on your report card and your parents are like, what is that B doing there? What's the message? That anything less than perfection is not good enough. And so that that could be a source for it. Another source, you might be in an industry culture where it provokes or stokes imposter feelings. Um, if you are one of a few or the only person in a room who looks or sounds like you, like international students, when we're out delivering talks um, at a university, for example, the international students are always the biggest group to show up because they're studying and living in a different culture, probably in a different language. They don't feel like they belong. And so that can create that experience of feeling like an imposter. So they're organizational, situational, diversity driven, confidence driven, familial, like there's so many reasons. So another reframe is just to say, well, of course I feel I'm having an imposter moment because, this situation kind of drives this kind of feeling, or the organizational culture drives this kind of feeling, or this. So it's like understanding the source and being able to just go, oh, of course I feel that way is also very helpful. And then you can go to that point of reframing and saying, you know what, I'm not going to get everything perfect, or I don't need to know everything to be effective. Or, so kind of looking at the source of what's driving it, like the kind of, and then also looking at your definition of competence and realizing it's probably a little wonky.
I'm glad that you said that because I think it would probably apply to minorities, not just in the sense of culture and ethnic background, but also just you're the finance guy that acquired a construction company, but you've never picked up a hammer and you go into the room. You're going to feel that. But, I felt that growing up between living in Morocco and living in the US. I mean, in the US, I was the Moroccan kid, and in Morocco, I was the American kid. And I never felt like in Morocco, it was more so language became a little bit of an issue where I felt self-conscious about it. But then also in America, I felt like the cultural aspect I never really grasped, and I didn't have the same, lifestyle and things like that. So definitely understand that. I think anytime you're a minority, that it's probably a heightened risk of imposter
Yeah.
syndrome.
Well, Khalil, I hate to say good things right when you can see me, but to me and to most people I know, you're the cool kid who's equally at ease in Morocco and the U.S. You speak 3 languages,
Sure.
Farsi, French, and English, and it's awesome. So there you go. Put that in
Well,
your
I
pipe and
think that's
smoke it.
probably the reality is just reframing it like you are the cool kid, or you are the different one, and people are excited like, oh, you're the finance guy that acquired the company, and man, tell me about how you have so much value in your company and how you change the profit around, whatever it is. I think that's probably valuable to the people that are the majority, like, oh, you've got a different perspective. Help us.
Right.
So really interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
well, as people think about how to change their thoughts and they think about, how I have imposter syndrome, what are some of the ways that, like, and maybe some stories that you have of people that you've coached or worked with that have actually changed that around and changed their thinking? Where were they at, and what was the transformation like? Do you have any?
Well, I'm going to say that the transformation is ongoing. So,
Sure.
because just to your point earlier, we became successful in this area, and now we're looking at what's the next thing we can offer and what's the next thing we can do. And with that new level comes new challenges and new experiences and new situations where it's like, are we really going to be able to pull this off? I'm not sure. Can I do this? Are people going to figure out that that last thing was just a total fluke? I can't imagine. So it's always going to come. I mean, you have people like Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, who talks about the imposter experience and says, every CEO, it doesn't just go into the chair going, I've got this. Like the CEO even has self-doubt. And so now I forgot your question.
That's okay. And examples. It's okay. No, it's all good.
Just any example.
Yeah.
Yeah, of a transformation.
And so it is being able to think like a humble realist and say, oh, what am I doing to myself here? Like, I think I have to get everything perfect. What makes me think I have to get everything perfect? Who gets everything perfect all the time? So that's part of it, is that self-talk. Or let's say there's a little constructive criticism that comes your way. Saying, all right, you know what? That comes as part. You're right. We didn't do this as well. And that's okay, because everybody makes mistakes sometimes. So the examples of people who have changed their relationship with their definition of competence might be the doctor who went up to my partner, Dr. Young, and said, you know what? I used to not do challenging surgeries because I was afraid that I wasn't as good at my job. And now I'm doing more challenging surgeries and saving lives. That is an example of someone who changed their definition of competence. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're flying my plane or performing surgery on me, I want you to be a perfectionist. But there might be something else holding you back. So,
Right.
if it's construction, unless you're, building buildings in Turkey and they don't care what is it Turkey where the earthquakes were and all those buildings just
Yeah.
shattered to smithereens. We don't want sloppy. Obviously, you want the level of work to still be great, but looking at what your relationship is. Like Martin, you mentioned someone who said they didn't have imposter syndrome, but then didn't want to be a part of a mastermind with fellow entrepreneurs because, oh my gosh, what if people find they're all so great and I'm not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That person's going to listen to this too, but again, we're not using any name.
I'm
And
glad
I know
everybody's listening.
I know she will, because I'm going to send her the link